Hello and welcome to a special segment of DSU Inside Perspective. I'm Carlos Holmes, and today we have the 10th president of Delaware State University, Dr. Harry Williams, here. And I say that on a bittersweet note because we're losing Dr. Williams. I'm very happy for him because he's going to become the CEO and president of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. But as a result of that, we're losing our 10th president. But he's had a very successful tenure, almost 8-year tenure here at Delaware State University, and we want to talk about that and just get some things on the record for our history and our own posterity. And so we're going to split this up in between 3 parts and talk about the tenure of Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, thank you for giving us an opportunity to document this history.
Thank you, Carlos.
You got here in 2008 as provost, and I am sure when you accepted that position, we already know you had the aspiration to become an HBCU president.
Right.
And I'm sure you felt that that was an opportunity to maybe a stepping stone towards that goal.
Yep.
But you got here 1 month after you got here. Dr. Alan Sessoms announced he had taken the presidency of the University of District of Columbia, and we were launching on a presidential search process. You didn't throw your hat in the ring at that point, or your vita in the ring at that point, but we couldn't reach a consensus in March of 2009 on the finalists that we had, and you then threw your vita in the ring, okay? What was the thing? Why didn't you throw your vita in the ring the first time around?
It was all about timing, and I had just arrived here in Delaware, and my goal coming in, and I said it to the faculty when I went through the interview process, that I have a goal in mind, and that's to be the president of a historically black college university. Didn't know it would be Delaware State, but the provost typically position is, if you survey the higher ed space, the chief academic officer is the number 2 person there, and that's a direct step to the presidency. So by coming here as provost, I knew that was going to help me get there. And so when I learned in meeting when I met with the previous president at the time, President Sessoms, and he shared with me that he was leaving after I had only been here for 2 weeks, I was somewhat stunned, but I knew that the timing wasn't right for me to be considered because I had just arrived here. People didn't know me that well, so I needed some time. And when the process moved forward, and as you stated earlier, they did not have a successful search, and it extended because we had a very dynamic, very strong board chairman and Dr. Claiborne Smith. So the stability was here on campus, and that gave me some additional time in the provost seat. And I used that opportunity to really do some work as the provost here, and felt very confident that if I submitted my application for consideration, that I would have some serious consideration for the position, and I did.
You did. Now, one of the things that vexed Dr. Sessoms was this issue with the legislature and a SEEDS program that offered scholarships to Delaware students to go to a 2-year institution to get a 2-year degree. The 1 degree we don't offer here at Delaware State University, but he didn't seem to be able to get much traction with the state legislature in trying to find an alternative that would help Delaware State University out. But you were able to broker a deal with the General Assembly very early on in your very first year in 2010 to create the Inspire Scholarship. How did you do that?
Well, that was my very first major task when I assumed the role, and there was a sense of urgency because at the time we were losing our market share of Delawareans. They were not coming to Delaware State. We actually had more students from out of state than in state. So I needed to figure out a way to stop that because we are a state institution. We get 1/3 of our resources from the state. And I had a very warm introduction to the General Assembly when I started here. And I built a strong network of legislators and communicating with them. And my very first task was to go over to the General Assembly and meet with each one individually, just for them to get to know me.
Is that how you developed a warm relationship with them?
That's how we started it, because I wanted to let them know that I only had one agenda, and that was Delaware State. And that was the only agenda, and being the state legislators, part of their responsibility is to look after the assets that the state currently owns, and Delaware State is part of that portfolio.
Right.
And I wanted to remind them and share with them all the wonderful things that's taking place on our campus and the importance of their support. And I wanted them to hear that from me. But I started with the governor first, because in any state, and this is, I learned this very early on in my doctoral studies, if you're going to work for a state institution, the most important person in the state is the governor. There's nobody else in terms of power, and you want to make sure you have a strong relationship with the governor. And the governor is the chief driver for anything in the state. So we started our journey with Governor Jack Markell, and actually he came to my office and met with me. And in sitting in my office, we talked about Delaware State. And he said, what can we do to support you? And I said, we need a major win from the state, meaning that at the time, the SEED program that you referenced was a competitor, really, because we didn't have anything to offer Delawareans, and the SEED program was a great program that was set up, but you had to have a 2-year degree. And Delaware State, we don't offer 2-year degrees. And the University of Delaware, they do have a 2-year degree program, and Del Tech, which is an outstanding community college. So they were benefiting from that, and so we wanted to figure out how we could create a program that would support our students, and we did. And to be honest with you, when I shared with some members of the board that I was going to go down this path, there was some skepticism within whether or not we could get it done the first time around, because as you know, in order to pass a law, that's very, very hard, very, very hard. And also to pass a law that's going to have a financial note attached to it, meaning new revenue, not existing revenue that we currently have, that make it even harder. And then you add on top of that, at the time in this country, we were facing a major crisis in our housing industry. And there were a lot of people who lost their homes during that period. So the economy just wasn't happening in a positive way. But we said we're still going to do it, and we did it. And we had the 100% support of the General Assembly. And that was a major win for us. And that's what we call a game changer. And that started the traction in a positive way with our guidance counselors in the state, with our state legislators, with our supporters, because we have a scholarship program that's designed to support Delaware high school graduates. Have a 2.75 grade point average. You can get up to $3,000 towards your tuition and fees, and that's for 3 years while you're here. Now we're working on the 4th year, and by the time this is, hopefully when people start viewing this, the General Assembly will start back in January. We're trying to work on that 4th year, and the next president, that's going to be his or her job to try to push that through, but we've kind of got it moving in a positive direction. We got support. People who've introduced it. I think we got a really good shot, but it's based on the budget right now.
You established a strategy when you first got here, and I think a lot of people had not heard it like this before. We'd heard of fundraising, but you brought forth a strategy of friend raising.
Right.
Did you feel like Delaware State University just didn't have enough friends out there?
Well, I knew we had friends, but sometimes you need your friends to stand up and speak up. And when I arrived here, as you know, there were some challenges with some issues that we had with some of our legislators and some of our perceptions, some of our alums. There were a lot of, people just didn't feel good. And my job was to reconnect those individuals. And I did call it friend raising because friends help each other. Think about it. If you have a friend, a real friend is going to help you. So part of that friendship is a sincere relationship. So it's not a one way. It's got to work both ways. So you have to be a friend, and a friend will turn that back on. And when you need a friend, they will step up in a time of need. So we spent over a year or two going around, connecting with our General Assembly, connecting with our state legislators, all of them, connecting with our federal delegation, which was very, very important because we need that connection, and our business leaders in our community, and our alumni, which play a critical role, and developing strong ties in relationships with our faculty, our staff, and our students. So that was the strategy, and it was a strategy we laid out that we felt that if we create this environment where people feel comfortable and you create a friendly environment, you'll have positive results.
Right, right. You know, we're going to come back for a part 2, and I want to talk about that some more because we seem to have a very special relationship with our congressional delegation. Yeah. We've already talked about the governor, we've talked about the General Assembly, and I think that has all worked to the benefit of Delaware State University, and that's come under your leadership too.
Well, thank you.
Yes, come under your leadership. This is part 1 of this interview with Dr. Harry L. Williams, the 10th president of Delaware State University. We're going to come back for part 2, and we thank you for joining us for part 1. In the meanwhile, y'all have a good day.